Hi everyone, welcome back to DM Druggies Matter, which is part of my Pot Smokers Bible channel. Now, my name is Zion. I'm the author of the Pot Smokers Bible, which is a dual book that contains a secondary book called the Book of Zion. The Book of Zion is a book of prophecy from the Old Testament, um, and it is a clear, precise, detailed description of the year 2020. And that brings us into the prophetic age, which means that everything that happens from here on out is foretold in prophecy. And that event, actually, with the ending of the Trump presidency, is the beginning of the creation of the nation of Zion. According to prophecy, I'm the next big thing. And the reason why I'm the next big thing is because I'm teaching you, the drug users, who you really are, and the truth of who you can become if you so choose. And that begins with history, because you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. And on the last couple of episodes, I've been telling you about the war on drugs. And my last episode was about the history of the prohibition of drugs. Now, today I'm going to be discussing the true history of drugs themselves, according to humanity, history. Now, drug use has the one qualifying use, medicinal, to enhance the body, to heal the body, to nurture the body. Okay? Drugs, as we know them, help us to live longer lives. But then there is the ancient, sacred form of drug use, which is used by priests, by prophets, by mystics, by shamans, witch doctors, and the like, voodoo practitioners. Drug use is used in a sacred form, performing rituals that allows interaction with the god or gods of whatever pantheon that you believe. But it is a sacred use, whether it be a small tribe in America or Australia, or whether it be the prophetess of Delphi, or the ritual um, orgies of Baccha in the Greek mythology. Drug use has a long history of being used in a sacred form. Hindu text talks about the use of stoma, and the Greek, the ambrosia. These were forms of drugs, I believe. Because of the next part of my discussion, there's the third use of drugs in our culture, which is the profane use of drugs. The use of drugs specifically for the physical effect that you get from the drug, the high, the drunk, the trip, the tweak, whatever you want to call it. But it's the physical effect that you get from the drug use that is the reason that you do the drug. It's not because you believe in a God and you want to contact with them. It's not because you're sick and you want to be healed. It's because you want to have a good time. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't believe there's anything wrong with that. That was half of the Baccha experience, was the good time that you had doing the drug. But drugs themselves have a unique history on our planet. You see, humans are, as all mythology and religious tells us, we are the result of a hybridization of Neanderthal humanoids and advanced blue-skinned aliens that we mistakenly named gray. Now, these aliens came from a different planet, And they had different food that they brought with them. And because of the difference in physiology between Neanderthal and Gray, the food of the gods gave us the profane effect of drugs. So the things that we call drugs in this society are actually, in most cases, derived from ancient alien nutritional supplements given to the priests in their performance of their duties. Now, these substances, cocaine, tweak, the components of tweak, the things that make you marijuana, most assuredly marijuana, all of these are the food of the gods. And the side effect of taking this in nurturing the gray side of our anatomy with the drugs. So the high is just a side effect. But what you're doing is you're feeding your gray anatomy. Since marijuana became legal in some states, open scientific investigation has begun. And the scientists have found this gray anatomy that is overlaid over our Neanderthal structure, but it lays dormant in our bodies as long as we do not nourish that side of our anatomy with drugs. Changes the whole thing, doesn't it? You take a drug and it alters your physiology. It feeds your genetic gray anatomy, enhancing your physical form, changing you from a Neanderthal to a gray. So, when you do drugs, you evolve. And every time you do drugs, you feed that evolved part of you. That's why it's so hard for people to stop doing drugs once they start. How can you starve yourself willingly? Drugs are nutrients of our gray anatomy. It's food for our gray bodies that are part of our human bodies. You can't separate the two sides of humanity. You are born with gray genomes. You are born with gray anatomy. But that gray anatomy stays dormant until you ingest the proper gray nutrients, which come in the form of drugs. So even the profane use of drugs is an evolutionary step into an evolved form of humanity. How can you ever look at drug use the same way again? When I first began to realize this, it began with these marijuana. When I realized that marijuana was a sacred plant and that smoking it was a sacred act, the very high itself changed. I felt different when I was high. I felt better. I felt more alive. I felt more right. I felt more at ease. I felt as though this was the one place I wanted to be, and that place I wanted to be was high. But over time, I have come to understand that the reason why it was sacred was because of this evolutionary step that we took. As long as a human does not do drugs that are from the Gray's homeworld, they remain in their Neanderthal state. Physical, sentient beings ascending from this from a young age. We're very young as planets go, as species go. So Neanderthals are a young race, and we are even younger than they are. But we have been stunted. We have gone down the biggest rabbit hole there ever was, so to speak, because we have allowed ourselves to believe that drugs are nothing but a good time, and we have allowed ourselves to be subjected to the war on drugs. Not standing up for ourselves, not using our enhanced gray anatomy to right these wrongs that we live with every day of our lives. There's so much that we can do for this planet if we just embrace who we are. Because the secret of drug use, it makes you a telepath. Telepathy is a real thing. And even the most stunted drug user has more innate abilities in their little finger than a Neanderthal has in their whole body. Because we are alive in a way that they are never going to be alive without drugs. So when you do drugs, just eat. You're eating. You're literally eating. You're nurturing. You're eating. That's all it is. The good time is because we feel nourished. You know, it's like when you're hungry. You know how you feel when you eat. It's like you're hungry, you're starving, your stomach is growling, and then you eat, and then it's like, oh, that food tastes so good, and it gets in your stomach, and it's like, oh, that feels so good. Well, that's what happens every time you do drugs. You eat the drugs, and it feeds your gray anatomy. And then you feel so good because that gray anatomy has been fed. You're full. You have the nutrients you need. Your body is satisfied. That's why drugs feel so good. And for drugs to be illegal is stupid, ludicrous, dumb, and counterproductive, and not logical. Why would you make something that is natural to your body and necessary to your nutritional needs be illegal? But of course, we have to accept that truth ourselves before we can step up and say, we let them do this to us, but we have the means to stop it. So let's just walk away and go camping. And let's see what it means to be gray, to be telepathic. So may the gray watch over you, guide you, protect you, and keep you from all harm. And may they teach you right from wrong, and may you be worthy of them. May your thoughts, words, and deeds reflect truth, good, and light, the unicorn way. Find your joy and pursue it. Make that your life's choice. Make it your guild choice when we go camping. Stay happy and high. If you use drugs, you have every right and reason to. Believe me, I know, I wrote the books. My name is Zion. I love you way too much to ever say goodbye, so I'm going to say later now.